Alright, Camille here. In this video I'm gonna be doing an updated guide for Xingqiu. I don't think I did an updated guide for Xingqiu since like 2020, so yeah, it's definitely time. In this video I'm gonna be showing you guys how to build Xingqiu as a sub DPS slash hydro enabler. So yeah, without further ado, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's begin. Alright, so starting off with his talent priorities. So as I said in the beginning, Xingqiu's main role is gonna be a sub DPS and mainly a hydro enabler. Where is that gonna come from? Is that from his elemental burst and skill, and his elemental burst being the most important talent. So yeah, you'd want to upgrade your elemental burst first and then your elemental skill. Your auto attacks, you just want to completely ignore them because you want to be auto attacking with another character. So yeah, you just want to upgrade your burst and then skill, and that's it. Alright, so now moving on to his constellations, we're going to see which ones are worth it and which ones are not. So starting off with the C1, it's going to increase the maximum number of rain swords by 1. That's not really a very good constellation. It's not really going to increase your burst damage at all. It's just going to increase like your healing and stuff like that, which is not really important. So yeah, I would say C1 is not really that good. Now C2 is going to increase the duration of your elemental burst, which is pretty good. It's going to allow you to have more hits, which means more damage, and also more hydro application. It's also going to decrease the hydro resistance of the opponents by 15%, and that means also way more damage. So yeah, I would say C2 is pretty good. It's definitely worth it. Now C3 is going to increase the level of your elemental bursts. That's also very good. Your elemental burst is going to be your main source of damage, so a 3 level increase is going to be pretty good. C4 is that when you have your elemental burst on and you use your elemental skill's damage is going to be increased by 50%. It's a very good damage increase, but generally it's not that useful because usually, unless you're using the sacrificial, you'd want to use your elemental skill first and then burst. So you'd want to like collect the particles and not waste any time during like your elemental burst. But generally it's a cool damage increase. I wouldn't say it's necessary or like very good, but it's cool. It's there. It's a cool constellation. C5 is going to increase the level of your elemental skill. It's pretty decent too. You know, it's not bad. His elemental skill's damage is also pretty good, but I wouldn't say it's worth it, especially because it's C5. So if you're going for like C5 alone, I would say yeah, it's probably not worth it. C6 is basically just going to give you 2 extra swords each third hit, and also it's going to regenerate 3 energy each like third hit. It's a very good constellation. It's going to increase your damage by a lot, and it's also going to help you a little bit with energy. By the way, it's not going to give you like 3 energy for each hit. Each third hit you're going to gain 3 energy. So throughout your whole burst you're probably going to gain like 9 energy or something like this. It's still a very good constellation. I would say it's one of the best C6s in the game. Way more damage, and it's also going to help you a lot with energy. So I would say C6 is definitely worth it if you want to go for his constellations. Alright, so now moving on to his weapon. There are a lot of like good weapons on Xingqiu. He can use a lot. It really depends on like what build you have on him, what team, what constellation, and stuff like that. So generally speaking, you want to make sure you have enough energy recharge on Xingqiu. I'm going to tell you how much you need in a little bit on the artifact stats section, and you'd want to aim for that number. So if you got enough energy recharge already, you might want to go for like a damage weapon. So for example, you've got all of the 5 stars, you know, the usual damage weapons. So like the Jade Cutter, the Mist Splitter, the Harangipaku, the Summit Shaper, all of these weapons that are like the usual for damage. And that's only if you have enough energy recharge already. But if you don't have enough energy recharge, in that case, you definitely want to go for like a energy recharge weapon or a weapon that's going to help you with the energy. So for example, you can go with the Sacrificial. It's one of his most like famous weapons. It's going to allow you to do your elemental skill twice, which is more energy. It's very recommended to get refinements on this weapon, at least like refinement 2 or 3. At refinement 1, it's going to be a little bit hard to like get the passive every single time, but with refinements it's going to be a very good weapon. You can also use the Favonius Sword. It's going to help you with energy and also help your whole team. And basically any energy recharge weapon is going to work. You have the Faster in Desire, the Amino Makagachi for example. All of these are going to be viable options. The best 3-star weapon is definitely going to be the Harbinger of Dawn. It's actually a very good weapon on Xingqiu too, so if you don't have any other weapons, you can definitely use it. Alright, so now moving on his artifact set. So the best set right now for Xingqiu definitely is going to be a 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fates. It's going to fit him very well. It's going to increase your energy recharge, which you need. And it's also going to increase your elemental burst damage, which is your main source of damage. So the 4-piece emblem is definitely the way to go. Even though in situations where you might need less energy recharge, it's still going to be very viable. So generally, I wouldn't really recommend farming any other set than the 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate for Xingqiu. But if you don't want to use a 4-piece Emblem example of Severed Fate, you can use a mix of 2 pieces. For example, a 2-piece Noblesse to increase your burst damage, and then like a 2-piece Heart of Depth, or a 2-piece Noblesse, 2-piece attack, or a 2-piece attack, 2-piece Heart of Depth. You know, you'd want to mix in a little bit of 2 pieces and that's it. So yeah, in my opinion, these are the only viable options for Xingqiu. I guess you might use like the 4-piece Noblesse maybe, but it doesn't fit him very well at all. There are many other characters who can use it properly instead of Xingqiu. So yeah, I wouldn't really recommend using the 4-piece Noblesse on him. Now moving on to his artifact stats. So starting off with the main stats, you want either energy recharge or attack percent on your Sands. And for the goblet and circlet, it's pretty simple. You'd want hydro damage bonus in your goblet, then crit on your circlet. For your Sands, if you got enough energy recharge, you want to go attack. It's better for your damage. If you don't have enough energy recharge, then you're forced to go energy recharge on your Sands. Making sure you have enough energy recharge on Xingqiu is very essential. For the substats, you'd want to get enough energy recharge too. If you did, you'd want to focus on building your damage, so you'd want to get enough crit, and then some attack and some elemental mastery, and that's it. Now for the final stats you'd want to have on Xingqiu. You'd want to have the usual damage stuff like 50 to 70% crit rate, and then 100 to 140% crit damage. A little bit more crit damage if you can, that's going to be good too. And finally for energy recharge, I would say you'd want to have at least 170 to 220. Now that's kind of a big range, but generally I would say 170 is the bare minimum for Xingqiu. Even if you have like a good build, for example, you're using like the sacrificial and you have him C6, 170 or maybe like 160 is going to be the bare minimum. In most situations, I don't think you can get away with less than this. Unless you're using him in like a Raiden team or something like that, you might get away with less than like 160 or 170, but you'd want to build your Xingqiu for like most teams. He's a very versatile character, so you don't want to like build him for only one team. You want to build him for like most teams. And for most teams, the bare minimum for energy recharge is going to be like 170 to 160. Now, if you're not using a weapon that's going to help you with energy and you don't have his C6 and you're not using him in like a good energy team, in that case you might need like 200 to 220 energy recharge to have his burst at a good uptime. I would say 220 is a very good number on Xingqiu because Xingqiu's main role is going to be Hydra Enabler, and for that you'd want to make sure you have your burst on a good uptime. Even if you sacrifice his damage a little bit, you'd want to make sure you have enough energy recharge. His damage is also good, but his most important thing is going to be his Hydro application. So yeah, if you're not using him in a good energy team and you're not using a weapon that's going to help you with energy like the sacrificial or the Favonius for example, I would say you'd want to have at least like 200 to 220 energy recharge to make sure you're getting his burst at a good uptime. Alright, so now moving on to his team comps. So Xingqiu is very versatile, you can use him in a lot of teams. Basically any team who needs a Hydro Enabler, Xingqiu is going to be viable on that team. He's one of the best, if not the best Hydro Enabler in the game. But to give some examples, one of his most popular teams is going to be the National team. It's one of the strongest teams in the game and you're going to need Xingqiu on that team. So you're going to need Xiangling, Xingqiu, Bennett, and then the last character, it really depends on what you want. You can use someone like Raiden for example, or like a Swirler like Kazuha or Sucrose or whatever. And yeah, on that team, Xingqiu is going to be a Hydra Enabler. For example, if you're using like Raiden Shogun, you'd want to pop in Xiangling's Elemental Burst, and then pop in Raiden's Burst, and then Xingqiu's Burst. You're going to be auto-attacking with Raiden, and Xingqiu is going to be applying Hydro off-field. And you're going to be doing a lot of like Electro Charge and Vaporize reactions. And yeah, that's going to result in a lot of damage. You can use him as a Hydra Enabler for like a Freeze team, for example. So for example, let's say with Ganyu, you're going to have Ganyu, Xingqiu, Rosaria, for example, and then Bennett. Again, Xingqiu is going to be a Hydra Enabler and you're going to be freezing enemies. You can use him as a Hydra Enabler for Hu Tao too. For example, you have Hu Tao, Xingqiu, Zhongli, and then Albedo. Hu Tao basically needs Xingqiu. Without Xingqiu, she's not going to be that good. With Xingqiu, she's going to be able to vaporize a lot of her hits, which makes her very, very good. Last example, if you want to use him on like a Dendro team, which is the new thing right now, you also can. It's going to be a very good Hyper Bloom and Bloom Enabler. So for example, you can have the Dendro Traveler, and then Xingqiu as a Hydra Enabler. You don't have Fischl, for example, or Beidou or Dory when she comes out as a Electro Enabler. And then you can have like a second Dendro if you want to, like Tainari or Kale, or a Swirler like Sucrose or Kazuha or whatever. That's going to be a Bloom / Aggravate team, and Xingqiu is going to be the Hydra Enabler. And yeah, there are many teams where Xingqiu is going to be viable in. I literally cannot count them. You can also use him in teams that don't even need like a Hydra Enabler. You can use him just like as a sub DPS for damage, even though you're going to be wasting him, but he can be used that way too. So yeah, that was the video guys. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. If you want to say anything or you'd want to correct me, leave it in the comments, and see y'all in the next video. Peace.